The night opened over Redwater like a wound. Wind slid through cottonwoods with rain and gun oil. Town lights were thin. A saloon lamp stared like a single eye. Myra Whitlow kept to the livery shadows. Her shawl clung. She had a reason to be here, a debt, a name. Rhett Calloway. He had ridden in at dusk, quiet, a scar near his jaw, a horse the color of storm water. Folks said he spoke little and shot less, but when he did, the air remembered. She told herself she would turn away if he looked up. She told herself not to feel anything. Inside, the piano told a broken story. Cards slapped, whiskey poured. Men lied about the past. Rain tapped the window. She pushed through the door, and the light took her. Plain cloth, no paint on her mouth. She did not come to look like a promise. She came to speak a truth and leave. He sat at the far table under a nail of lamplight, hat low, hands easy, boots quiet. The room seemed to lean his way. She felt it from the door. Her chest tightened. She thought of her father, of a post split by lightning, of the day everything turned. She walked. The boards creaked like they knew her weight. Someone laughed too loud. Someone cursed the cards. She kept her eyes on him. She would not tremble. Rhett looked up when she reached the table. His eyes were winter blue that did not need company. He took her in like weather. One glance could measure distance and danger. He did not touch his glass. "You looking for someone?" he said. "I am," she said. "You?" The word hung. A chair scraped. She did not turn. "Sit," he said. She sat, her hands folded. They did not shake. Her voice stayed steady. "My name is Whitlow," she said. "Maybe you heard it. Maybe you rode past it. Maybe you left it broken in the dust." Something moved in his face. Not guilt, not pride. A fast shadow. He lifted his glass and set it down. "I have heard it," he said. "My father lies north of town," she said. "The ground is poor. It will not hold a marker. He did not die slow. He did not die kind." Quiet gathered. Even the piano seemed to listen. Rain pressed its ear to the panes. "You think I did that," he said. "I think you were there," she said. "I think the man who did it rode under your wind. I think you carry the taste of that night, even if you will not swallow it." He breathed once, gravel given. He looked at his hands, hands that built fences and burned them. "If you came for blood, you came late," he said. "I came for truth," she said. He leaned back. The chair talked. He did not smile. He did not threaten. Something new entered the room. A door where there had been a wall. But then she whispered almost to herself, "I am afraid of you." His eyes did not change. "Fear is a kind of map," he said. "Sometimes it points home." A shout rose at the bar. Glass broke. The room shifted and settled. Rhett never looked away. "Tell me what you remember," he said. The wind at the barn, a lantern rolling, a boot print in damp earth, a voice that said hush like a prayer. The gunshot, the sky going white, the horse running without a rider, the sound my mother made when the law left us there. He listened. Each detail lit a small flame in his eyes. When he spoke, his voice was lower, steady. "The man who did that is not breathing," he said. "I saw to that. I did not ride under his wind. I cut it. Anger would not rise. Heat did." She hated that more. It felt like a door to a room she had wanted all her life. "I do not know how to trust you," she said. "Oh, you do not have to," he said. "Not tonight." He stood. The table shifted. He slid a coin across the wood. He took his hat. The brim dipped like a small vow. He did not touch her. "Where are you going?" she asked. "The livery," he said. The storm says to move. If you want the rest, walk beside me or behind me, not ahead. It is not safe. Not safe because of you, she said. Not safe because of men who think I am alone, he said. She rose, her legs felt like reeds in current. He stepped past, and heat moved with him. It brushed her shoulder like warning and promise. They stepped into the night. Rain began in a soft sheet. The air smelled of wet leather and sage. The street lay empty. They walked. He did not speak. She matched his stride. The storm tugged her shawl. He caught the edge before it could fly. His fingers grazed hers. The touch was nothing. It was everything. Her fear shifted, not gone, loosened, like a knot that learned to breathe. They stood under the awning while the rain gathered strength. Horses stirred. Thunder rolled far off. Rhett studied her like a map by moonlight. If you stay, he said, you will learn which ghosts are mine and which I have been hunting for you. And if I go, she said, then you will still feel the rain and not know why it smells like firelight, he said. A lantern swung inside. A shadow moved where none should be. Rhett's hand went to his belt and stopped there. He smiled. Not kind, not cruel, only sure. Stay close, he said. The shadow paused, listening. The rain thickened. The night held its breath. If this story has warmed a quiet corner of your heart, stay close. The night still holds more to tell. The rain did not ease. It drummed on the awning like a hand that refused to let go. Mara watched the street dissolve in silver lines. Rhett stood beside her, still as the hitching post. His presence filled the space between lightning. She had not planned to follow him, yet when he moved, she did. Their steps sank in mud. The town shrank behind them. Only the thunder kept pace. They reached the livery. The horses shifted in their stalls, uneasy with the storm. Rhett unlatched the door, and the smell of hay and damp leather spilled out. Warm breath met the cold rain. He lit a lantern. The flame trembled once, then steadied. Shadows bloomed along the rafters. He set the light on a beam and checked the tack. She stayed near the doorway, hands drawn tight around her shawl. You always run toward storms, he said without turning. Only when they've already found me, she said. He nodded, as if that made sense to him. The sound of the horses slowed, hooves scraping straw. The rain softened against the roof. Rhett brushed water from his hat. The scar near his jaw caught the light. He was a man who carried silence like armor. Still something about the way he looked at the horses, careful, almost reverent, made her wonder if that armor had once been tenderness. You told me you saw to it, she said. The man who killed my father. I did. Why? 'Cause he killed mine too. The words landed like thunder close by. She stepped closer. The air thickened. How long ago, she asked. 8 years. Different town. Same kind of man. I followed him, till the desert forgot my name. When I found him, he had already started on yours. The lantern hissed. For a moment she heard only rain and the slow pull of breath between them. So you avenged us both, she said. No. I ended what I started. Vengeance doesn't heal a soul. It only stops the bleeding long enough to remember what peace could feel like. You speak like you've seen it, she said. I've seen the edge of it. Never stayed long enough to rest. She met his gaze. His eyes no longer felt cold. They were a sky just before dawn, still dark, but softer at the rim. You could stay now, she said quietly. He smiled without joy. I stay nowhere. Trouble doesn't need an address to find me. A gust pushed rain through the doorway. Mara stepped closer to the lantern's warmth. Her skirt brushed the straw. The smell of smoke clung to his coat. It made her think of firelight, of nights when safety was a story she told herself to sleep. "What happens when you stop running?" she asked. "I find out what I've been running from," he said. "And what if it's not death? Then it's something worse. Memory. Hope. A woman who looks at me like I could be forgiven." She looked away, heart thudding too loud. The horses shifted again. One stamped the floor, nervous. Rhett turned toward the door, hand brushing his gun. "Stay here," he said. He stepped into the rain, body blending with the dark. Mara listened. Nothing but wind. Then the creak of the swinging sign outside. The night seemed to lean closer, listening too. Minutes stretched. She counted them by the beat of her pulse. Then the door opened, and he returned, wet and tense. "Riders," he said. "2, maybe 3. Following sign from town. They don't belong here. You think they followed you?" she asked. He nodded once. "Their kind doesn't forgive either." She felt the fear rise, sharp and old. He saw it and softened his voice. "We'll leave before dawn. Ride east. There's a ridge that hides smoke and tracks." "I don't even know where east leads," she said. "Toward tomorrow," he said. "That's enough for now." He poured a little whiskey from a flask, handed it to her. The burn slid through her, warm and alive. She handed it back. "You could have left me," she said. "Could have," he said. "Didn't. Why? Because you came looking for truth. That's more than most." She wanted to say thank you, but the word felt small. Instead she said, "And if I hadn't?" He looked at her a long time. "You'd still be haunted. So would I." Lightning flashed through the cracks in the boards. The light made them both look carved from fire. He reached to close the door, and for an instant his hand brushed hers again. Her breath caught. The fear that had once chained her shifted, melted, became something harder to name. He noticed. He always noticed. "You don't have to be afraid of me," he said. "I know. I just don't know what to do with the rest of it." "Neither do I," he said. "That's how I know it's real." The rain eased. The horses settled. He poured grain into their troughs, his movements slow and sure. She watched him in silence. Every gesture carried weight, every pause a story he hadn't told yet. When he turned back, he spoke softly. "We'll rest till dawn. You take the cot. I'll keep watch. You don't sleep. Not when ghosts are still walking." She lay down, but her eyes found him again and again. The lantern flickered low. Outside, the storm drifted west. He stood by the window, silhouette framed by rainlight, hat in hand, shoulders drawn against memory. She did not mean to close her eyes, but the rhythm of rain and his steady breathing wove through her until sleep came like mercy. Just before she fell under, she heard him whisper to the night, not to her, but close enough to reach. "I wasn't meant to be the one to set anyone free." And yet, she thought, already halfway to dreaming, maybe he would. Dawn came soft and gray, brushing the barn's rafters with mist. The storm had left everything damp and quiet. Mara woke to the smell of rain-soaked hay and the sound of a horse drinking slow from a bucket. Rhett stood near the open door, already saddled, a dark figure against the pale morning. He turned when she stirred. "Morning," he said. Her voice was still rough with sleep. "Did you rest at all?" He shook his head. "Didn't need to. The night stayed busy enough." She pushed herself upright, the blanket slipping down. Her hair had fallen loose. He looked away. polite but aware. She caught that flicker of restraint. It warmed her more than the morning sun. "What happens now?" she asked. "We ride east," he said. "Keep off the main trail. There's an old creek bed that'll hide our tracks." She rose, smoothing her dress. The memory of his hand catching her shawl last night flashed through her mind. That brief touch, how something inside her had shifted without asking permission. As they stepped out, the town lay behind them like a half-remembered lie. The road ahead glistened with puddles, the air heavy with sage. The world smelled new, but her fear still clung to the edges. They rode without words. Rhett led, his horse steady, his coat moving with the wind. She followed, trying to match his calm, but every hoofbeat felt like a question. After an hour, they crossed a ridge where the sky opened wide. The desert spread below, endless, golden, alive. He slowed his horse and looked back. "You all right?" he asked. She nodded, just not used to this much silence. He half smiled. Silence is where truth hides. They stopped by a cluster of rocks where a trickle of water ran clear. He dismounted, tied the reins, and offered her his hand. She hesitated, then took it. His palm was warm, calloused, steady. Her pulse jumped. "Thank you," she said. "You do the same," he said. "Maybe," she said, "but I'd still be scared." He poured water into his hand and let it fall back into the stream. "Fear's honest. It tells you where your edges are." She watched the droplets slide down his wrist, catching the morning light. It was strange how easily he spoke now, still quiet, but softer, like he'd decided she had earned that part of him. They sat on opposite sides of the creek. A hawk circled high above. "Tell me about your father," he said. She looked down, fingers tracing the dirt. "He was good. Too good for this land. Believed in fair deals. Believed that lawmen could still be decent. That got him killed." He nodded. "Mine too. You said he was taken by the same man." "Yes. A drifter named Cole Anders. Killed for a purse he didn't earn. Thought nobody would chase him. He was wrong." "And when you found him?" Rhett's jaw tightened. "I thought it'd fix something. Thought killing him would bring light back, but it just made the shadows clearer." She studied him. "You ever forgive yourself for it?" He met her eyes. "Forgiveness isn't for men like me." "Maybe it is," she said softly. "Maybe that's what freedom feels like." He looked away. The wind picked up. "You talk like you've known both cages and keys." "Maybe I have," she said. They rode again as the sun climbed. The land began to dry, color deepening to gold and rust. She felt the rhythm of the horse beneath her, the wind against her face. It felt alive. It felt dangerous. Around noon, they stopped near a lone cottonwood. Rhett scanned the horizon, his eyes sharpened. "Riders again," he said. "3 this time. Half a mile back." Her pulse leapt. "Are they—" He cut her off. "Not lawmen. Hired hands. They'll want to finish what the storm started." "What do we do?" "We don't run," he said. "Not yet." He led the horses behind the tree line, tied them low, and checked his rifle. Mara crouched beside him, her breath unsteady. "You don't have to fight for me," she whispered. He gave her a look, steady, unreadable. "I'm not. I'm fighting what hunts me. You just happen to be standing where my bullets need to go." She should have been afraid, but something else filled her. Trust, fierce and fragile. The riders drew closer. Dust rose behind them. Rhett waited, calm, watching. When they came into range, He didn't reach for his rifle. Instead, he stepped out from behind the brush. The men halted. One called out, "You're a hard man to track, Calloway." Rhett said nothing. Another sneered. "Word is you've been hiding a witness. Pretty little thing. Bring her out. We'll make this quick." Mara's breath froze. Rhett spoke then, voice like gravel and thunder. "You came for blood. You'll leave with nothing." The first man reached for his gun. A single shot cracked. He dropped before he finished the motion. The others bolted. Rhett didn't chase. He turned back, eyes cold again. "You see why I don't stay anywhere long." She stepped closer. "You saved me." He holstered the gun. "That's not saving. That's surviving." "Maybe, but it feels the same right now." Her voice shook on the edge of something bigger. He heard it, saw it, then looked away. They packed in silence and rode until dusk. The sun bled out over the horizon, staining the desert red. When they stopped again, it was near a dry ravine. He built a small fire. The glow painted him in amber and shadow. She watched him across the flames. There was danger in him still, but also something safe, something she hadn't felt in years. He poured her a cup of coffee. It tasted like smoke and iron. "You ever think the world gives second chances?" she asked. "Not to men like me," he said. "And to women like me?" "Maybe," he said, "if they stop fearing the wrong things." She held his gaze across the fire. Her heart beat slow and steady now. The fear hadn't vanished. It had transformed. The night hummed with crickets. Firelight danced between them. The desert morning came clear and sharp. Every sound carried far. The crackle of the small fire, the steady breath of the horses, the whisper of wind dragging through the brush. Rhett sat at the edge of the ravine, hat low, sharpening his knife. Mara woke to that rhythm, metal against stone, slow, sure. She stretched, the blanket sliding from her shoulders. The air bit cold. He didn't look at her, but he spoke. "Morning comes fast out here," he said. "So does trouble," she answered. He gave the faintest smile. "You're learning." She came to sit beside him, pulling her shawl tighter. The sunrise spilled over the land in red and gold. It made the dust glow like embers. "How far to this ridge you spoke of?" she asked. "Half a day if we ride hard. After that the trail splits, east to the river, south to nowhere worth naming." "And which way will you go?" "Haven't decided. Depends if you're still following." Her breath caught. "You think I can't ride alone?" "You can. But I've seen what waits for women alone out here. It's not the land that kills. It's the men who forgot how to belong to it." She turned her face to the horizon. The silence between them felt heavier than fear. "You speak like you know both kinds," she said. "Maybe I do," he said. "Maybe I was one once." She looked at him. Really looked. The scar, the quiet, the eyes that carried storms. A man shaped by wrong choices and the hope he could unmake them. They rode after that. Hours passed. The land changed color, from gold to bone white, from soft sand to jagged rock. When they stopped to water the horses, she asked, "Why did you come to Redwater, Rhett?" He didn't answer at first. Then, "To find a man who sold names to killers." "And did you find him?" "Not yet." "You think he's still breathing?" "If he isn't, then the ghost wearing his name is. Either way, I aim to see him buried proper." She studied him, and after that, he shrugged. "Maybe I ride north. Maybe I stop riding altogether. And if I asked you to stay?" He looked at her, a long, quiet look that burned more than the sun. Don't ask me for things I can't give, Mara. I didn't. I just wanted to know if you'd want to." The words hung between them, heavy and soft. The wind carried them away. By late afternoon, they reached the ridge. From up high, the world looked endless. Below, a narrow valley wound through rock and scrub. A small cabin lay near a dry stream, smoke thin and curling. Rhett frowned. "Didn't expect company. You think it's the riders again?" "Don't know, but we'll find out careful." He led the horses down the slope. The ground was soft with ash and sand. When they reached the clearing, he motioned her to stay back. He knocked once on the door frame with the handle of his gun. An old man stepped out, gray beard, thin eyes, hands trembling around a tin cup. Rhett lowered his gun a fraction. "Caleb," he said. The old man squinted. "Lord above, Rhett Calloway. I thought you were buried in Mexico by now." "Not yet." The man's gaze slid to Mara. "And who's this?" "A friend," Rhett said. She didn't correct him. Caleb nodded slow. "Well, friend or ghost, come inside. You look like you've been chased halfway across God's back." Inside, the cabin smelled of coffee and smoke, shelves lined with cans, dust, and years. Caleb poured them each a cup. "I heard talk," Caleb said. "Men in Redwater asking after you. Dangerous sort. You stir that nest yourself?" Rhett nodded. "I did." "Then you best move fast. They ain't just hired hands. They ride under a man named Hollis Crane." The name made Rhett's jaw tighten. "He's alive, then," Rhett said. "Alive and meaner." Mara watched them both. "Who is Hollis Crane?" Rhett's voice dropped. "The one who bought your father's death. The one Cole Anders worked for. The one I've been hunting through every border and bad dreams since." Caleb leaned back. "You go after him. You'll be bleeding before sunset. Maybe. But I'm tired of bleeding by memory," Rhett said. He stood, looked out the window. The horizon shimmered with heat, a storm gathering in light instead of rain. Myra rose too. "If you go, I go." "No," he said. "Yes. You can't keep saving me, only to leave me standing in the dust." His eyes met hers, blue fire, raw and unguarded. "You think this is about saving you, isn't it?" He shook his head. "It's about stopping what keeps finding you." "Then let me finish it too," she said. "My father deserves that much." He looked at her, long and hard, then his shoulders eased, as if something heavy finally broke loose. "All right," he said, "but you stay behind cover when it starts." "It's always starting," she said. He almost smiled. "You got grit. I'll give you that." Caleb sighed. "There's an old line shack by the river bend, 2 miles east. Crane's men use it for rest. You'll find what you're looking for there." Rhett nodded once. "Thanks, old friend. Don't thank me. Just make sure you come back walking." They rode again as the sky deepened to copper. The wind carried the scent of mesquite and gunpowder. Old, faint, familiar. Mara could feel something coiling in Rhett, a purpose sharpened too long. As the sun sank, he said quietly, "You still afraid of me, Mara?" She met his gaze. "No, I think I'm afraid of what you'll do for me." He looked ahead again, voice low. "That makes 2 of us." The valley darkened. The first stars burned above the ridge. Somewhere ahead, a man waited, and with him, the truth neither of them were ready to face. The world turned quiet before dawn, that kind of stillness that always came before blood was spilled. Mara felt it in her bones, even the horses knew. Their breaths came in slow, heavy clouds, white against the cold air. Rhett crouched beside the fire's dying coals, checking the cylinder of his revolver. Each motion was careful, practiced like a ritual for men who expected not to see sunrise. She sat near him, wrapped in her shawl. Her voice came soft. You ever get used to it? He didn't look up. To what? To waiting for death. You don't wait for it, he said. You just stop running from it long enough to live. She watched him slip the gun into his holster. The gesture was quiet, almost reverent. He stood, glanced east where the sky began to pale. We moved now. They rode in silence. The land before them stretched endless. Raw gold and cold wind. The air smelled of dust and iron. Mara's heart beat hard against her ribs, but she kept her posture steady. When they reached the river bend, the old shack appeared like a scar in the land. Wood blackened by sun, roof half-caved. Smoke rose from the chimney, thin and mean. He motioned for her to dismount. Stay behind that bluff till I call. You said I could help. You will, he said, by staying alive. He gave her a look, not command, not plea, something in between. Then he drew his gun and stepped forward. The wind picked up, rattling the dry brush. He moved like a shadow made of willpower, low and silent. Mara crouched behind the bluff, fingers digging into dirt, eyes fixed on the shack. Every second stretched like rope, ready to snap. A voice shouted from inside. You took long enough, Calloway. Hollis Crane. The name carried venom even on the wind. Rhett's voice came steady. Didn't want to keep hell waiting. Laughter rolled from the shack. You still think you can walk into my sights and leave breathing? You got something that belongs to her, Rhett said, and to me. More laughter. All I got's dust and men who'd kill for it. Mara could barely breathe. The door slammed open. A tall man stepped out, coat long, eyes dead gray, a smile that didn't belong on a human face. Crane. Rhett stood 10 paces away, gun loose in hand. The space between them was thin as fate. You could have stayed gone, Crane said, could have let the past rot quiet. Past don't stay buried, Rhett said, not when it screams through other people's lives. Crane tilted his head. You talking about the girl? Her name's Mara, Rhett said. Crane grinned wider. She's got her daddy's eyes. I remember those. The world stopped breathing. The gunfire cracked like thunder. 2 shots, 1 scream. Dust rose, Mara ran before she thought, heart hammering. She reached the clearing. Rhett stood, smoke drifting from his gun. Crane was on the ground, clutching his shoulder, eyes wild with hate. You should have finished me, he spat. Rhett stepped closer. This ain't your redemption, Crane. It's mine. He swung his arm once, struck Crane across the temple with the barrel. The man went still. Mara stopped a few steps away, chest heaving. He's not dead. Not yet, Rhett said. He crouched beside Crane, pulling a small pouch from the man's coat. Inside a tarnished silver locket. He opened it, a photograph, faded by dust. A woman holding a little girl. Mara gasped. That's your mother, he said quietly. Her knees went weak. She took the locket in trembling hands. Where did he get this? Rhett looked at Crane. He liked to take trophies from paint he made. Mara closed the locket and pressed it to her chest, then let him live with what he took. Let him see the world forget him. Rhett studied her. You sure? She nodded. My father believed mercy made a person whole. Maybe I should try too. Rhett's voice softened. That's braver than killing. He tied Crane's hands and left him by the shack door. When he turned back, something in him had changed. A weight shifted, an edge dulled. You did what I couldn't, he said. You forgave. No, she said, I remembered what it cost not to. They rode till dusk. The wind was cold again, carrying the scent of rain far off. Mara leaned low in the saddle, the locket warm against her skin. When they stopped for camp, Rhett built a small fire. She sat across from him, the flames between them dancing slow. He handed her coffee, his hand brushing hers. The touch sparked and lingered. "You ever think peace feels strange?" she asked. "Always," he said, "because men like me weren't built for it." "Maybe not built," she said, "but maybe meant to find it anyway." He looked at her, not the way men look at beauty, but the way the lost look at light. He said, "You should sleep, and you?" "I'll keep watch. Old habits die hard." She smiled faintly. "Maybe some shouldn't die at all." The night stretched wide. Wind hummed through the brush. The firelight painted them in gold and shadow. Two souls caught between danger and something like grace. When she finally lay down, she could still feel his eyes on her, not to guard, but to remember. The rain came back before dawn, soft at first, then hard enough to blur the edges of the world. Mara woke to the sound of it on canvas, the smell of wet ash, and the steady rhythm of Rhett's boots pacing near the fire. He was restless. She could feel it in the air, the same way the horses did. Their ears flicked, their muscles twitching under slick coats. "You don't like storms much, do you?" she said, her voice still low from sleep. He turned. His coat was dark with rain, his hat dripping. "Not the kind that come with water," he said. "Then what kind?" "The kind that start quiet and end with smoke." She pushed herself up, wrapping her shawl tighter. Lightning flickered, showing his face for a heartbeat, calm but tense, like a man trying to outweight something that lived inside him. He said, "We'll ride soon as it breaks. You think Crane will send more men? He will if he's breathing, and he's breathing." Her chest tightened. "You regret letting him live?" "Not yet. Regret takes longer to grow roots." The rain eased a little. He checked the horses, speaking softly to them, the sound of his voice mixing with the wind. It was the first time she realized how gentle he could be when no one was watching. When he came back, she was staring at the locket in her hand. "You really think mercy changes anything?" he asked. "It changes me," she said. "That's enough." He nodded once, like that truth was too simple to argue. Then he added, "Maybe it changes me too." They packed and rode east. The world glistened, every rock shining, every leaf heavy with water. The smell of wet earth rose around them, sweet and clean. The sun was still hiding, but the sky lightened, streaked with pale gold. Hours passed in silence. The rain turned to mist. Rhett rode ahead, scanning the ridges. Mara followed, the locket warm against her chest. By noon, they reached a narrow canyon, walls high and close, water running thin at the bottom. Rhett slowed, listening. The echo of hooves carried strange in places like this. He stopped suddenly. "What is it?" she whispered. He dismounted, crouched, touched the mud. "Prints. Fresh, not ours." She swallowed. "How many?" "2. Maybe 3. He stood. "We'll move through fast. Stay close." The canyon curved like a serpent. Every shadow felt alive. The wind had died completely. Only the sound of dripping water filled the air. Then a shout. A gunshot. Rhett spun, shoved her toward the rocks. "Get down." Bullets split the air. Horses screamed. He fired back twice, his voice cutting through the echo. "Stay behind me." She pressed herself against the stone. The sound was chaos and thunder. He moved in front of her, calm, precise. Each shot he took found silence. Then the echoes faded. Smoke hung in the air. She covered her ears, heart pounding. When she looked up, he was standing still, breathing hard, the revolver smoking in his hand. "You hurt?" he asked without turning. "No." "You?" He shook his head. "Not mine." Then looked down. The men were gone. 2 bodies, one half hidden in mud. She rose slowly, coming beside him. "You didn't hesitate." He holstered the gun. "Hesitation gets you dead." "And mercy?" He met her eyes. "Mercy gets you haunted." The canyon opened to a field beyond. Flat land stretching toward low hills. The rain had stopped. Sunlight began to break through the clouds, pale and warm. They rode until they found a small stand of cottonwoods. He dismounted, tied the horses, and sat in the grass, elbows on his knees. The silence after the fight was almost holy. She sat beside him. "You didn't want to kill him, did you?" He looked at his hands. "Want's got nothing to do with it. Some men just don't leave you a choice." She watched him, saw the way his shoulders bent slightly under invisible weight. "You ever think of stopping?" "Every day," he said. "Then something reminds me why I started." She lay back in the grass, staring up at the clearing sky. The clouds broke apart like old grief lifting. "You think the world could forgive a man like you, Rhett?" He gave a small laugh, rough and quiet. "Only if it forgets me first. Maybe it already has." He turned to look at her. "You don't sound afraid of me anymore." "I was never afraid of you," she said softly. "I was afraid of what I might feel." He was still for a long moment. The wind carried the scent of rain and sage. Then he said, "Maybe that's the only honest kind of fear there is." She smiled faintly, eyes still on the sky, then stopped running from it. He leaned back on his hands, watching her. The light caught her hair, still damp, and something in his chest shifted, quiet but deep. A storm of another kind built between them, one without rain, without thunder, only heat and heartbeat and breath. When she turned her head toward him, he didn't move. Their faces inches apart, the air heavy and fragile. "Rhett," she whispered. He didn't answer. He just reached up, touched her cheek with his thumb. Careful, questioning. She didn't pull away. The silence between them burned slow. Then he stood abruptly, breaking it. "We should move." She blinked, breath shaking. "Right." They rode again, through fading light. Neither spoke. The air between them held more truth than words could carry. When they made camp that night, he didn't sit close to the fire. He kept his distance, staring into the dark. She watched him for a long time, his profile against the flame, his stillness, the way he seemed to fight something unseen. Finally, she whispered to herself, "Maybe freedom isn't found by leaving. Maybe it's found by staying long enough to stop running." He turned then, as if he'd heard her, though she hadn't meant him to. Night sank over the desert slow, heavy with heat and silence. The air smelled of smoke and rain left behind. Mara sat by the fire, knees drawn to her chest, watching the flames climb and fall. Rhett was on the other side, hat low, coat draped across his legs. Neither had spoken since the canyon. The quiet between them wasn't empty. It was thick with things unsaid, things felt too sharply to name. She finally broke it. "When you touched me today, I didn't flinch." He didn't look up. "Didn't mean to startle you." "You didn't? That's what surprised me." He shifted, eyes catching the firelight. "What did you expect?" "I don't know," she said. "Fear, maybe. The kind that kept me breathing all these years. But it's gone now." He watched her a long while. The flame cracked. You sure it's gone? I'm sure it changed. He leaned forward, elbows on knees, his face shadowed. What did it change into? She hesitated, the words trembling at the edge. Want. The fire popped. Wind moved through the grass. He exhaled slow, the sound rough in the quiet. But that's dangerous talk out here. So's truth, she whispered. Rhett stood, turned his face toward the horizon. The sky burned faint blue at the edges, stars smothered by thin clouds. He took off his hat, rubbed a hand through his hair. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. I've done things that don't deserve softness. Then don't call this softness, she said. Call it what it is, a moment that finally stopped running. He looked at her then. The space between them was small, yet it felt like a mile of history. You think this moment can change what came before? No, she said, but maybe it can heal what's still bleeding. He stepped closer. The firelight reached up, painting gold along his jaw, his throat, the line of his collar. She rose to meet him, her heart a wild drum inside her. He stopped just shy of touching. His breath brushed her cheek. You sure about this? I've never been sure of anything more. The wind shifted, and then the space closed. His hand found her waist, the other cup in the back of her neck. The first kiss was quiet, searching, the kind that asks instead of takes. Her fingers traced the edge of his shirt, felt the tremor under his calm. He kissed her again, deeper now, slower, the rhythm of two souls remembering warmth after years of cold. Outside, the horses stamped softly. Somewhere far off, thunder rolled, gentle this time. When they parted, she rested her forehead against his chest, his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. You said you weren't built for peace, she whispered. Maybe I was wrong, he said. Maybe I just hadn't found the right fire to stand beside. She smiled against him. At me? He looked down, his thumb brushing the edge of her jaw. You were born to survive, but that's not the same as living. The words slid through her, soft as rain. They stayed close, letting the fire burn down to embers. Time moved without weight. The night outside stretched vast and unbroken. Later, when they finally lay down, he kept one arm around her. The silence wasn't lonely anymore. It was full, whole. She whispered into the dark. Did you ever think this could happen? No, he said. I didn't think I'd earn it. Maybe it's not something you earn. Maybe it's something you choose when you stop believing you don't deserve it. He was quiet a long time. Then he said, You talk like the sky's been teaching you lessons. Maybe it has. The wind outside softened. Coyotes sang far away, mournful and beautiful. He pulled her closer, his voice nearly lost in the sound. If I forget how to breathe when morning comes, just remind me what it felt like tonight. You won't forget, she said. You've carried ghosts long enough. Maybe it's time to carry something gentler. He smiled against her hair. You make it sound easy. Nothing worth healing ever is. She felt him nod against her temple. The fire sighed low. The night deepened around them. For the first time, the dark didn't feel like something to hide from. It felt like home. Morning rose slow and golden, laying soft light over the sand. The air still smelled of smoke and rain. Mara woke in the curve of Rhett's arm, his heartbeat steady beneath her cheek. For a moment she forgot the world outside, the guns, the ghosts, the men still hunting them. There was only warmth. He opened his eyes when she moved. Morning, he said quietly. Morning. she whispered back. He smiled a little, the kind that came rare to men who'd seen too much. Then he sat up, reaching for his hat. Best we get moving. Daylight don't hide us none. She rose, brushing dust from her dress. The memory of last night lingered like the scent of wood smoke. Tender, dangerous, unforgettable. She wasn't the same woman who had walked into Redwater. She could feel it in her bones. They broke camp and rode south through the low hills. The sky was wide, unbroken blue. For a while, the silence felt easy. Then Rhett's voice came low. You ever think about what comes next, Mara? She looked at him. What do you mean? After this. After Crane. After all of it. She smiled faintly. You think there's an after? He shrugged. I always hoped there might be. She studied his face, the lines around his eyes, the wear in his voice. You sound like a man who's already half gone. He didn't answer. The wind carried their silence across the open land. By midday, they stopped near a small stream. He watered the horses while she knelt by the bank, washing the dirt from her hands. The water ran cool and clear. You could start over, she said suddenly. Go north. Find work that don't draw bullets. He looked at her. And leave you here? You wouldn't have to, she said softly. But maybe you should. His jaw tightened. You think peace means being alone? I think peace means not living in the crosshairs. He stepped closer. And what if you're the reason I found it in the first place? She turned toward him. Rhett. He cut her off, voice rougher now. You deserve a life that ain't built on running. I can't give you that. You already gave me more than I thought I'd ever have. Their eyes met, fire and ache, both afraid to look away. Then he broke it first, staring past her toward the horizon. Dust rose in the distance. Riders, he said. Her heart dropped. How many? 4, maybe 5. He mounted fast. Stay behind me. No, she said, swinging into her saddle. We ride together. He looked back once, saw the resolve in her face, and nodded. Then they took off. The world blurred, horses pounding, wind cutting sharp. The riders behind gained ground. Gunfire cracked. Dust turned to smoke. Rhett shouted, Left. They veered into a narrow pass. Rocks splintered as bullets struck. Mara's horse stumbled, but kept running. Rhett turned in the saddle, fired twice. One man fell. The rest held back. Then her horse screamed. A shot tore through the air. She fell hard, dust exploding around her. Rhett swung off his horse before it stopped moving. Mara, talk to me, she gasped, clutching her side. I'm fine. You're not. He pressed a hand against the wound, not deep but bleeding. She hissed in pain. He tore a strip from his shirt, tied it tight. Stay still, he said. One of the riders came into view. Rhett turned, fired once. The man dropped. The rest scattered, fading into the hills. When silence returned, he knelt beside her again. You still with me? Her lips trembled into a faint smile. You're good at saving me, Rhett Calloway. He shook his head. No, I'm just bad at losing you. She reached for his hand. You won't have to. Not if we make it out of this. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. You always talk like hope's a thing you can touch. Maybe it is, she whispered. Maybe it's right here. He looked down at her hand in his, small, pale, strong. His voice broke when he spoke again. You can't die on me, Mara. Not after all this. She smiled faintly through the pain. Then don't let me. He lifted her carefully onto his horse, holding her steady in front of him. We're heading to the ridge, he said. Caleb's cabin ain't far. We'll get you fixed up." The ride was slow, each step a prayer. She leaned back against him, breathing shallow, trusting his heartbeat to keep time. The sun began to fall, painting the land in bronze and red. At last the cabin came into view, smoke curling from the chimney. Rhett kicked the horse faster. Caleb stepped out, eyes wide. "What happened?" "Bullet grazed," Rhett said, lowering her gently to the ground. "Need bandages. Whiskey." Caleb rushed inside. Rhett tore away the blood-soaked cloth. The wound wasn't deep, but it had drained her strength. She reached up, fingers brushing his jaw. "You're shaking," she whispered. "You scared the hell out of me," he said. She smiled weakly. "Guess we're even." He laughed once, low and hoarse, pressing his forehead against hers. "You don't get to leave me, Mara Whitlow. Not like this," she whispered, "then make me stay." He kissed her, soft and desperate. A promise and a plea. The world narrowed to breath and heartbeat. When they finally pulled apart, he whispered against her lips, "You're gonna be all right. You hear me?" "I hear you," she said. Outside, thunder rumbled far off, a storm born from the ashes of another. He held her close as the rain began again, washing the dust from their faces. The rain kept falling through the night, a soft, steady sound against the cabin roof. Rhett sat by Mara's bedside, elbows on his knees, eyes fixed on the slow rise and fall of her chest. The wound was clean now, bound tight with Caleb's rough bandages. Her face was pale, but her breathing had steadied. He hadn't slept. He didn't dare. Each drop of rain felt like time counting down, and he'd spent too many years losing people to storms like this. Caleb poured him a tin cup of coffee. "You look worse than she does," he muttered. Rhett managed a tired smile. "She's tougher than she looks." Caleb nodded. Always the ones who carry quiet that survive the longest. Rhett stared into the fire. The flames danced, small but certain. He thought about all the nights he'd spent chasing ghosts, all the faces that blurred into the same regret. None of it mattered now. Only the woman in the bed did. "You love her, don't you?" Caleb said. Rhett didn't answer. The silence was enough. Caleb sighed, then quit looking at the past like it still got something to say. When he was alone again, Rhett reached for her hand. It was warm now, not the cold weight it had been hours ago. He brushed his thumb across her knuckles. "You can rest," he whispered. "I'll do the watching for both of us." But she wasn't fully asleep. Her eyes opened, heavy with exhaustion. "You still here?" she said softly. "I ain't got anywhere else to be." She smiled faintly. "Good. I don't want to wake up to an empty chair." "You won't. Not this time." He meant it. Every word. Outside, dawn crept slow and silver. The rain eased. Smoke drifted lazily from the fire. Caleb moved quietly, giving them space. By morning, Mara sat up. The color had returned to her cheeks. "You kept your word," she said. "Always meant to," he replied. She looked at him. Really looked. The way people do when they see the truth they'd been waiting to believe. "What happens now, Rhett?" He leaned back in the chair, rubbed a hand over his jaw. "Crane's still out there. Men like him don't die easy. You said you weren't a man for killing anymore. I ain't, but I am a man for ending what shouldn't start again." "Then let me come." He met her eyes. "No." "Yes," she said. "You taught me not to run from fear. I'm not starting now." He wanted to argue, but something in her tone, that quiet strength, stopped him. "All right," he said finally, "but you stay behind me." Always behind you, she said, with a soft grin. Caleb came from the corner. You both sure about this? Rhett nodded. Then take this, Caleb said, handing him a small pouch of cartridges and a flask. I seen too many ghosts come through this door. Don't add your names to them. They saddled the horses under a gray sky. The rain had turned to mist, the land glistening as though washed clean. Rhett helped her mount. His hand lingered on hers. You strong enough to ride? I've ridden through worse, she said. Maybe not in the body, but in the heart. He smiled, small but proud. Then let's end this. They rode north, toward the ridge where the world seemed to lean closer. The air grew colder, sharper. Rhett's eyes stayed on the horizon. When they reached the rise, they saw it, smoke curling from a camp in the valley below. Crane. Rhett exhaled, slow. He'd been waiting for this moment for years, but now that it was here, it felt different. Lighter somehow. You don't have to, Myra said. I do, he answered, not for revenge, for peace. She nodded. Then find it, but come back to me when you do. He met her gaze, the kind of look that carried 1,000 unsaid promises. Then he touched her cheek, quick sure, and rode down the slope. Myra watched, heart pounding, every sound sharpened, the creak of saddle leather, the whisper of wind through grass, the echo of his horse's steps. At the bottom, Rhett dismounted, gun in hand. Crane stood waiting by the fire, his arm still bound, a twisted grin on his face. You again, Crane said. Guess mercy don't last long in your world. Rhett's voice was calm. Mercy's what kept you breathing. Don't mistake it for weakness. Crane laughed. You think killing me'll change who you are? No, Rhett said, but letting you keep walking will. Crane sneered. You don't have it in you. Rhett leveled the gun. The hammer clicked. Maybe not for me, but for her I do. Crane reached for his own weapon, too slow. The shot cracked through the valley, echoing like thunder, then silence. When the smoke cleared, Rhett stood still, gun lowered, the world holding its breath. Crane lay still beside the fire. The wind shifted, carrying the smell of burnt wood and iron. Myra rode down fast, dismounted, ran to him. It's done, she said. It's done, he repeated, his voice empty and full all at once. He turned toward her. For the first time, there was no weight in his eyes, just quiet. What now? She whispered. Now, he said, we live. She reached for his hand and he let her. Together they stood as the wind swept through the valley, carrying away the last of the smoke. The sun rose slow over the valley, turning the wet earth to gold. The storm had passed, leaving everything clean and still. Rhett stood beside the fire's ashes, the smoke thin, curling into the light. Myra watched him from her horse, the wind teasing strands of her hair. He looked lighter somehow, like a man who'd finally set down a weight he'd carried too long. You did it, she said quietly. He turned. Did we? She nodded. Crane's gone. The blood's been answered. He holstered his gun. It's not the blood that needed answering. It was the silence. Myra dismounted and walked toward him. Her boots sank in the damp earth. The locket at her neck caught the sun, glinting soft and steady. And now, she asked. Now I try to remember what a life feels like when it isn't built on ghosts, he said. You could start here, she said. There's room enough for peace if you let it in. He smiled faintly. You talk like peace is a thing that waits for men like me. Maybe it doesn't wait, she said. Maybe it follows when it knows the road's finally clear. He looked at her then. Really looked. eyes tired but clear, like water after the flood. He reached out, brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. You sure you want to tie your life to a man with more past than future? She took his hand, steady. I'm sure I've had enough fear to last a lifetime. Maybe it's time I chose something braver. He let out a long breath. Braver than love. No, she said, love is the brave thing. They stood like that for a while, two silhouettes framed by dawn. The land stretched endless around them, quiet and wide. The wind moved through the grass, whispering through every scar, every memory. When he spoke again, his voice was low, rough, almost tender. I never thought anyone could see the man beneath what I became. She smiled. Maybe that's because you kept your eyes closed too long. He laughed once, the sound small and new, as if it had forgotten how to live in his throat. They rode north after that, slow and easy. The air smelled of sage and rain. Every mile felt lighter. At midday, they stopped by a river that ran silver in the sun. Rhett filled his canteen, looked at the reflection trembling in the water, his face lined but alive. You ever think about going back to Redwater? She asked. He shook his head. Some places belong to the past. Better to let them rest. She nodded. Then where? He smiled. Somewhere the wind still remembers how to be kind. She leaned closer, her voice soft. Wherever that is, I'll ride there with you. He met her gaze. You sure? I've spent too long searching for safety, Rhett. Now I just want truth, and you. He touched the locket at her throat. Then I reckon we both found what we were chasing. The sun dipped low again, painting everything in fire and gold. They set camp by the river, the world quiet around them. Rhett built the fire while she watched, the smell of smoke curling into the night. When he sat beside her, she leaned against his shoulder. The flames danced, throwing soft light over their faces. You ever think about what comes next? She asked. He looked into the fire. No more running, no more ghosts, just this. And if tomorrow brings another storm, then we ride through it together, he said. She smiled, resting her head against him. Maybe that's what freedom really is, knowing you can still love in the middle of the storm. He pressed a kiss to her hair. Maybe so. The fire burned low. The river whispered nearby. Above them, the stars came out, quiet witnesses to two souls that had finally stopped running. Rhett closed his eyes, feeling the weight of her hand in his. For the first time in years, he didn't feel haunted. He felt home. If this story has touched a tender place in your heart, let your light stay with us. Comment, share, and subscribe so this western fire keeps burning for you.